Hello, welcome to more BookTube with me, Madeleine Swan. I'm quite nervous to make this video, I'll be honest, because I don't really know what people will think, but I want to make the video anyway because I've been reading a lot of Lovecraft lately. I first read Lovecraft when I was about 15, 16, and it was Herbert West's Reanimator. And if anyone's read that one, you'll know the bit that I mean, but there was a racist bit in it that really put me off, and I didn't read anything by him for a long time. And then recently I was curious and I read Call of Cthulhu, and I enjoyed it. It's I know the story, everyone knows the story quite well, so it didn't sort of blow my socks off or anything. But I read Shadow over Innsmouth and I really enjoyed it. It's a good story. There's actually quite a lot of tense, creepy bits in it. However, as I was reading it, I also kind of thought, he's talking about mixing races and it's quite uncomfortable. So it's no surprise that Lovecraft was into the sort of fairly popular opinion of the time, which was eugenics, and he wasn't a fan of immigrants or anyone who wasn't just like him, really. The author Victor Laval, who writes in the Lovecraft mythos now, dedicated his book The Ballad of Black Tom to Lovecraft and all my conflicted feelings towards him. So it's kind of an accepted notion that Lovecraft was a bit of a racist. However, as I said, I enjoyed his stories, and so what I would like to look at is, does that mean I should just never read him again, or where should I go from there? So I'll look at both sides of the equation and then come to my own conclusion. Of course, I think you should come to your own conclusion as well, because I wouldn't want to tell you what to think. Okay, so the first point is a common thing that people say about Lovecraft is that everyone back then was racist, so he was just kind of following by example. And yeah, it was much more acceptable to be racist back then. That's just a fact. However, I think it would be interesting to read a blog post by author Nicole Cushing, because as she points out, Poe, Edgar Allan Poe of course, and Ambrose Bierce were around before Lovecraft, and if that level of antagonistic racism was just something that everybody shared, then you'd find that in their work as well. They're before him, they were white, they were writers, and yet you don't find that in Poe's work at all. And Ambrose Bierce actually wrote against anti-immigration, and that's definitely not something you could say of Lovecraft. Another point I'd like to think about is the fact that they wanted to change the little statue of the Lovecraft Award to Octavia Butler or somebody else for the World Fantasy Award. So on the one hand, people are saying you can't sort of brush him under the carpet and pretend that his writing doesn't exist because of the terrible things that he said. And on the other, people are saying, yeah, but he did say those terrible things, and there are people who feel bad having that award because it reminds them of what their ancestors had to go through. In my personal opinion, it's a World Fantasy Award, so it probably doesn't matter as much as it would if it was the Weird Fiction Award, if you see what I mean. To me, he doesn't leap out as a fantasy author, and I don't think it's too much of a tragedy to change it. One compromise could be to have the figurine as Cthulhu instead of Lovecraft, because I do believe that you can separate the writer from the writing. Lovecraft said some unpleasant things and believed some unpleasant things, and yet his writing is full of good ideas and he did do some good stories. Getting back to whether you think such unpleasantness should mar your interest in him completely, I would say no. because I feel by that argument we should avoid Lewis Carroll because of his potential interest in young girls. By the way, I'm linking a very interesting documentary about that in the description, so if you want to know more, it's there, along with a documentary about Lovecraft. We should also avoid Allen Ginsberg because he was in NAMBLA. William Burroughs either on purpose or accidentally shot his wife. Those are very different to like massive racism, I get that. However, I saw a writer called Morgan May on Twitter saying that because something is problematic doesn't mean I'm not going to engage with it anymore. She was talking about 50 Shades of Grey and how people tell her that she should never read it because of the allegations of abuse within the story. And she said, I'm still going to read it because it's terrible and it makes me laugh, but it's entertaining. And I agree. I think that identifying the problem within something is the important thing. Same as with a book recently, I don't know too much about it, called Carve the Mark. I think as long as we can identify an issue, that's the battle. Also, I kind of think that we should perhaps still be interested in what people who have ideas that are abhorrent to us have to say. I think that by shutting these people out completely, perhaps it's good to try and figure out where on earth people have got these ideas from and what is leading to that. Maybe we should all try and make more of an effort to learn about each other. You don't have to, obviously, I totally understand. Same as if you're reading Lovecraft and what you read it's just too much, like it was for me, and it still is. I totally understand that. However, I'm just interested in what people very unlike me have to say. So therefore I think it's not worth everyone abandoning an entire body of work purely because Lovecraft was a strange, angry, lonely man. I think that we should still learn about each other and grow as a species, and I think that we should identify issues and talk about them, try and talk about them calmly. I get that's not always possible, but try and keep calm, and perhaps we can go somewhere together. That sounds weird, but you know what I'm trying to say. Okay, that was a massive ramble. I apologise, but I did my best on a subject that makes me nervous, and I'm on camera, which also makes me nervous. So hopefully that wasn't too bad. Okay.